Hey everybody, it's GoblinX and welcome back to some more Magic Arena. Today the quick draft formats have switched around. We've got Crimson Vow quick drafts back again, so I am going to be taking a quick step back into the Crimson Vow draft format. I am a bit of a variety drafter, so I like to shake things up now and then when they bring old formats back. So without further ado, let's check out what we've got in our Pack 1. Alright, here we are now in Pack 1, Pick 1. Unfortunately, no exciting rare to go by here, just a dual land, but a couple solid uncommons and some pretty good commons as well. We have Catapult Fodder for the high toughness theme, we have Vile Spawn Spider for green-blue self-mill, Traveling Minister is one of the best commons in the set, just for getting extra damage in and gaining some life. There is a white-black life gain theme, there's a white-green training theme that you'll want specific power on your creatures for, and just for any aggressive deck, it's a really nice life point swing. And then there's like Flourishing Hunter, which is really good at getting you back in the game with the slower, more grindy green decks. And it is another card for potentially a high toughness theme deck, but you don't have to be going down that route, you can just be any late game green deck and have a lot of fun with that card. So I think those are the best cards in the pack. I don't love slamming down gold cards. Pick 1, so I will probably not take Vile Spawn Spider here, just because it keeps you pretty restricted, even though it is one of the most powerful cards in the pack. Catapult Fodder does also leave you a little bit restricted. It's at its best in green-black or blue-black. Those are the color pairs with the most higher toughness than power creatures, and the most synergies with this card. Blue-black has Exploit in this set that cares about sacrificing cards, so that'll synergize with the sack outlet. So it's not quite as restrictive as Vile Spawn Spider, but still a little bit restrictive. I think I kind of just like taking Traveling Minister here. I think it's probably the best white common, and it's the least restrictive card, because I could see this card working well in any white deck. White-black, white-blue, white-red, white-green. So I'm pretty happy to just take a Traveling Minister, one of the best commons in the set. Here we are now in Pack 2 with a pretty great uncommon, the Diver Scab here. This can be a really annoying card. A 5 mana 3/5 is pretty high toughness, and if you exploit with this card, being able to have your opponent put a creature on top of their library is basically to make them skip the next turn, recasting that creature, or if they choose to put it on the bottom of their library, then you are basically just getting a removal spell out of this, getting that dealt with until they redraw it by shuffling through their library or something like that. So pretty nice tempo play or removal spell slapped onto a 3/5 body there, so I like that card quite a bit. It will probably be the pick here. Other solid cards are the other blue exploit cards. These are both solid for commons, but just don't quite get up to that power level of the Diver Scab since they aren't really affecting the board state. They're just a little bit of value. Scry 1, draw a card, or return an instant or sorcery from your graveyard. Blood Petal Celebrant would be fine if we want to just immediately push into like Boros aggro. I don't think it's quite as good as the Diver Scab. And then like Witch's Web's a fine combat trick for green-white aggro, and Rural Recruit's an okay creature for that strategy. But I think it's going to be Diver Scab for me here. A lot of decent cards in here, even Blood Fountain and Lacerate Flesh are not bad. Alright, so this pack we've got a pretty sweet uncommon, although it is completely off of what we're doing right now. We could slam down a Child of the Pack anyway, just because it is a powerful card, but again, it would cut off both of our first picks unless we try to play a 3-color deck here, so not a massive fan for that reason, but it is a fun, powerful werewolf. Heron-Blessed Geist is fine if you have a lot of enchantments so that you can exile this from the graveyard and get a couple 1/1 spirits. Dreadlight Monstrosity, another fine late game ender. Scattered Thoughts is quite a powerful draw spell in general. 4 mana at instant speed to pick up the best cards out of your top 4. The best 2 cards out of your top 4 is pretty good, and this is in a format with graveyard synergies. If we end up playing in blue-white, they have the Disturb mechanic that'll let us recast any Disturb cards from our graveyard as enchantments, so being able to potentially draw maybe 2 cards plus get a Disturb card engraved, this card does play really well, so I'm pretty excited to maybe slam down Scattered Thoughts. Other notable cards that are kind of off-color would be like Weaver Blossoms is a lot of fun. I really love drafting that card. It leaves us open to 3-color splashy decks pretty easily. And it's just a good card in green in general, because they have powerful late-game cards like the 6 mana 6/6 Flourishing Hunter. So mana ramp plus fixing on that card is excellent. And then other than that, And just some solid little creatures like Belligerent Guest or Selhoff and Tumor, just filler stuff. I think I'll be taking the Scattered Thoughts here, though. Has just been a very impressive card draw spell in this format. So in pick 4 here, the best thing to stick to just blue-white is probably Geistlight Snare. Just a decent little counterspell. It turns into a mana leak if you have a spirit or enchantment on board. If you have both on board, you can cast this for only 1 mana. So in the blue-white color pair, if we do end up being this strategy completely, this card works really well with disturbed cards. They're mostly spirits, and they come back as enchantments. So pretty great counterspell if you can get some cost reduction on it. That being said, the other uncommon here, the Alluring Suitor, is an incredibly powerful card. 3 mana for a 2/3, and when you attack with exactly 2 creatures, flip it into a big 3/3 trample with a fire-breathing ability that buffs 2 of your creatures for +1/+0 for 2 mana. So really nice card here. You can use it by attacking with 2 creatures just to get that extra 2 mana and cast a large spell main phase 2, or you can just immediately dump that mana into pushing extra damage out. Card is just a very impressive aggressive card, and because we only have 1 white card right now, and even only 2 blue cards, we're really not totally tied to anything yet, so I'll take the Alluring Suitor here. Since it is just a really powerful mono-colored card. And this might be a little weird after not taking the red-green-gold card, but I think it was only like a little better than just taking an on-color Scattered Thoughts, whereas here, Alluring Suitor, the only thing it's really competing with is that 1 counterspell, and if we end up playing Alluring Suitor, we can still play both of our blue cards, and we only have to cut 1 card for it, instead of having to cut 3 cards for the Child of the Pack. So here in pick 5, we've got another counterspell, the Wash Away, although this one is going to cost 3 mana every time, so not the greatest counterspell ever. Another Scattered Thoughts for more card draw, pretty great at it. And then some solid common creatures. The Bloodcrazed Socialite is just a very powerful, aggressive creature, 3/3 menace that sometimes attacks as a 5/5 menace. Just hits like a truck, or the Weaver of Blossoms in green for just good mana ramp. These are both powerful cards, but Scattered Thoughts is powerful card draw too. I don't think either of these are a massive reason to jump ship on a color, so I think we're okay to just take another Scattered Thoughts here. We don't want to have too many of these. We probably only want like 2 copies, to be honest, because you don't want a deck with just a million cards that don't impact the board, but it is still a great blue card. Happy to take it at this point, this early on. Pick 6 now. We've got a fun rare, but not a particularly good one, and it's also off color. We'd have to start pushing into green instead. So not a huge fan of Grillnock here. I mean, I am a huge fan because it's a cool, cute card, but it's just not that powerful. I like Panicked Bystander here a lot. It's probably the best card in this pack that's remotely on color, but then there's also Fearful Villager being the best red card if we want to push into red for our Alluring Suitor, although it is probably weaker than the Panicked Bystander. And there's Wedding Invitation if we want to just hedge our bets and take something colorless. This is just a really fine filler card you can put in almost any deck because it just cycles, draws you a card when you play it, and then sometimes it will close out the game, giving you unblockability. So yeah, kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place here. We take the slightly weaker red card or the solid white card. I think I'm cool to just take Panicked Bystander here. I mean, it also works well with the only other white card we have so far, the Traveling Minister, because that card will gain us a life each turn, so it just makes it a little more possible to have this flip during your end step. This card is powerful. If you can get it to flip, it's like really powerful, and if you can't get it to flip, then you're still like gaining some moderate amount of life throughout the game, so it's just a really good ability to stack onto a 2-mana 2/2, which is already a fine rate. Yeah, I think I'm down for Panicked Bystander over the Fearful Villager, but I wouldn't fault anybody for taking Fearful Villager and just trying to push into blue-red here with the Alluring Suitor. And that being said, now we do get paid off pretty well for having taken the white card, because now the best card in this pack by far is in white, the Circle of Confinement. It's a removal spell that only kills small things, but it is a removal spell nonetheless. 2 mana to exile something that costs 3 or less until this leaves the battlefield. And this format is not like Kamigawa Neon Dynasty. There are nowhere near as many artifacts and enchantments on the board. There's a decent amount of enchantments because of disturbed decks, but not enough to really main deck naturalize, so most often this is just a permanent removal spell. It's not going to get dealt with. Alright, so the best cards in this pack are probably just like Cradle of Safety and Blood Fountain if we just completely disregard color. which means it's probably a pretty easy Cradle of Safety. Skywarp Scab is fine, but it's just a bit small for its mana cost. You're not always drawing the card off of it, especially in blue-white. It's not the best, because this card wants you to exile creatures from your graveyard, but blue-white has a lot of creatures that come back from the graveyard with disturb abilities, so we don't really want to be exiling creatures from grave. So not only is this card not super good, it's also just not good in our color pair, so I'd probably rather just take a Cradle of Safety here. Just a nice little combat trick. It can counter a removal spell. It can make your creature win at combat against an equally sized creature, so your 2/2 kills their 2/2 and survives, and it does all that while also giving your creature a permanent +1/+1 buff for the future. So it's been a pretty good card in the format. Alright, this pack is a really easy pick. This whole pack is just a bunch of filler creatures, so we just take the on-color filler creature. It's probably one of the best creatures in the pack, probably tied with Ragged Recluse around that level. The other creatures are definitely a bit weaker. But yeah, this card's a decent card. Exploit to bring an instant or sorcery back from your graveyard to hand. We are getting a little bit worried about our exploit cards. We have Repository Scab and Diver Scab, but not a lot of creatures that we're super cool with exploiting. I guess exploiting a Traveling Minister late game is not that bad, but we definitely want to make sure to pick up some blue and white disturb cards, because it always feels excellent to disturb those cards. Not much going on in this pack. Pretty filler creature, very filler removal spell. Lantern of the Lost is kind of like the definition of filler. Sometimes it's good, but this is a card I usually just want to sideboard. It does have the backup plan. No matter what, for 2 mana, you can just get rid of this card and draw another card. So it is main deckable for that reason, but I still don't love main decking it. So I'm probably not taking Lantern of the Lost, so I guess I'll just take Lacerate Flesh here. So we have a filler removal spell if we get pushed into the backup plan of blue-red or white-red or whatever. Couple pretty filler creatures here. The early game blocker that does somewhat synergize with Disturb, but I would still rather just cast my Disturb creature and then have it die in combat and then recast it, than discard it. And then we have the Dreadlight Monstrosity, which also synergizes with Disturb, because once your Disturbed enchantment leaves the battlefield, it'll get exiled so that you can't just keep recasting it forever. So this will be, a big unblockable late game threat. So yeah, just 2 filler cards for wherever you need to fill up your curve. If you need more early game creatures, you take the Entomber here. If you need more late game, take the Monstrosity, and both will serve their purpose fine. Not massively excitingly. We have a 1-drop, a 2-drop, a 4-drop, and a 5-drop, so we've really got everything kind of on the curve, a little bit of it. So I guess you need more early game plays than late game plays, because you're just going to have the mana for your early game plays much more often, so we'll just take the Entomber. And that makes this pick really easy, probably Dreadlight Monstrosity, although Alchemist Retrieval is an option. Does synergize with Disturb well if we want to pick up a Disturbed enchantment to our hand to be able to recast the creature half. That is a neat little combo. And this is interaction against anything, just bounce their card back to their hand. Yeah, I think I'm actually pretty down for the Alchemist's Retrieval here. We only want like 1 or 2 6-mana cards, so we can pick up one of those Dreadlight Monstrosities later if there's nothing else better. Not a card you have to take super early. Alright, well, pack 2 is going to be one of those packs that puts us in a bit of a dilemma. This format has a lot of powerful bombs. Creepy Puppeteer is certainly one of them. This is kind of a bomb in any aggressive deck. A 4-mana 4/3 haste that makes another attacking creature a 4/3 if you're attacking with exactly 2 creatures in combat. Synergizes very well with our Alluring Suitor for that kind of strategy if we want to push into red. Problem is, we kind of only have 2 red cards, only one of which is good. Lacerate Flesh is just okay. Our white cards, we have 3 really good white cards, the Bystander, Circle of Confinement, and Traveling Minister, and we just have a lot of blue in general, even if none of it is like super good. Diver Scab's pretty great, Scattered Thoughts are solid, Repository Scab's solid. Yeah, Creepy Puppeteer would be a powerful rare to push into red. I don't know what color we would cut for it. Kindly Ancestor and Heron of Hope, though, are both premium white commons that are very, very good as well. The Kindly Ancestor makes it really hard for your opponent to race you, because you're just going to be gaining a ton of life. You have a 3-mana 2/3 lifelinker down there, super good at blocking 2/2s, and whenever it does die, trade off into something, you can disturb it for 2 mana to give something else lifelink, so it's incredibly annoying and almost impossible for any aggressive deck to try to outrace somebody who's got a Kindly Ancestor down. The Heron of Hope is very similar and good for kind of the same reasons. For 2 mana, you can give this lifelink till end of turn, and just as a static ability, if you would gain life, you gain that much +1 instead. So both of these are doing some of the best things white can do in this format, which is life gain synergies, and our Traveling Minister and Panicked Bystander will work excellently with either of those cards. So normally I might just slam down Creepy Puppeteer, but since we already have 2 good white life gain cards, and these are both excellent white life gain commons, I might just keep sticking to what we have here and just take a Kindly Ancestor or Heron of Hope. And I think both of these are quite good. Don't think you can go super wrong on either. They're pretty equivalent in power level, I'd say. Just fill somewhat different roles. I think I'll take the... Maybe I should take Heron of Hope first, because I don't really have like a flying card to keep chipping in for damage yet, but I do already have some annoying blockers just by the merit of being in blue-white. We have like a 2-mana 1/3. We've got the Bystander that might become a 3/5. We've got a 3/5 Diver Scab. Yeah, nothing in the sky yet. I might go with Heron of Hope first, although I could definitely see the argument for Kindly Ancestor over Heron of Hope, because they are both great cards, and the Kindly Ancestor gives us our first actual disturb card to synergize with like exploit effects or getting milled off our Scattered Thoughts or anything like that. But I think I will be taking Heron of Hope here. And I also wouldn't put it past anybody to just take the bomb, the Creepy Puppeteer here and try to push into red. But it's a really close pick there. Definitely a pretty hard one there. I don't know what of those 3 cards is just the best pick. I don't think there is an objective best in most picks. But anyways, pack 2, pick 2 now. Not a ton going on for us in this pack. Red has like Reckless Impulse as a draw spell. Blue really just has kind of Siphon Essence or the Screaming Swarm here. Siphon Essence being solid in this format for how bomb heavy it is, being able to counter a creature Planeswalker and filter out a land draw later with this blood token is pretty solid in this format, but Soul Cipher board has always been just a bit too slow for me, and the Screaming Swarm kind of similar, just a bit too much mana, a bit too long to get on the board. But it does end games if it gets out there and sticks around. It just feels like at that time there's always going to be removal up for it. I feel like there will hopefully be better ways to close out games. Yeah, these cheap creatures are very, very filler. Really don't like the Unholy Efficient much. It's very inefficient to put +1/+1 counters on it. And the Selhuff and Tumor, we've already got one and it's super filler. I think I'm just going to take Siphon Essence here, as weird as it may seem. Everything else just seems pretty slow or dirtily. Alright, here I guess I can just pick up that counterspell that I passed up on before, the Geistlight Snare, because at this point we're pretty much guaranteed in blue-white. We have a couple of enchantments that aren't even disturb creatures, like the Circle of Confinement and Cradle of Safety, and we have a couple of spirits, or if we don't, we should soon enough in this color pair. So yeah, seems like a pretty good counterspell here. Should be pretty cheap. Pretty much always counter something early game. There's not much going else in this pack. Binding Geist is a fine disturb card. It's one of the more filler ones though. Dreadlight Monstrosity, a filler 6-drop. Serpentine Ambush, just not a great combat trick. The white cards are very bad. Sanctify and Perish Blade Trainee. Just a very specific card. Sanctify and Perish Blade Trainee, a really slow card when you want it to be a good aggressive card. Best card in this pack is probably just like the Blood Crazed Socialite in black. Kind of a weak pack in general. But we'll take the Geistlight Snare. So this pack we have a second Geistlight Snare, but now we have a Geistlight Snare and a Siphon Essence. I don't want to jam my deck full of too many counterspells. A second Cradle of Safety, but very similarly, this is an instant speed card that's kind of used to counter a removal spell. So again, don't want to just jam too many of those kind of cards in here. Could take a second Heron of Hope. I'd be pretty happy to do that. That's probably what I'll do here. You just keep going in on the life gain strategy. There's also Chill of the Grave, which is a pretty solid tempo play, even if you don't have zombies in your deck. 3 mana, tap down a creature, keep it locked down for a turn, and draw a card. It's a pretty good deal. Just cycles into your next card and slows down your opponent, or gets a blocker out of the way. Pretty good card, but definitely great with zombies. We do have a couple zombies. We've got 3 of them, so that's kind of interesting, but almost all of our white cards are life gain adjacent, so I'm pretty happy to take a Heron of Hope here. So the best cards in this pack are probably the green stuff, the Weaver of Blossoms, the Vile Spawn Spider. Could maybe push into 3 color here, although I don't generally love doing that. Scattered Thoughts is one of the better cards in this pack, but with 2 copies of Scattered Thoughts already, that's another thing. You don't want to overwhelm your deck with too many cards that just don't impact the board in any way in limited, because that is some of the most important things you can be doing, is just casting creatures and removing creatures and stuff. So if like a quarter of your deck is card draw, then your opponent can just dump a bunch of stuff on board and not really care that you have a ton of cards in hand. So I am always a little nervous about overwhelming myself with too much card draw, but if all of our card draws instant speed and we have multiple counterspells like we do, that will help quite a bit, because then it's like counterspell if they play something good and if they don't, draw some cards. So I'm kind of okay with still just taking Scattered Thoughts here. I don't really like these white creatures much. These are both the kind of creatures that are only good when you're on the aggressive. They're going to be very, very bad at helping you out when you're on the defensive. And I definitely far prefer cards that can be good in both positions, even though the Shield Basher for sure is very good if you're on the aggressive. Perish Blade Train is just okay on the aggressive and super bad on the defensive. Yeah, I'll take Scattered Thoughts here. We'll have 3 of them in here, see how it runs for us. All right, well, we see more good green, the Wolf Strike here, so it feels a little awkward not having pushed into green here, maybe for the 3-color deck or just green-blue in general. But we can take an Alchemist Retrieval, not be massively unhappy with it. It's definitely better than Supernatural Rescue or Sanctify, I think. Or the Boarded Window. This card was fun to try out early in the format, but just hasn't played out super well since then. It's just really easy to remove it just by dealing some damage. Yep, we'll just grab an Alchemist Retrieval here. We're getting towards the end of the pack, so it's going to make sense. There's going to be some weak cards here. Okay, this is getting a little awkward if we just have 4 Scattered Thoughts in here. I suppose we could take a red card here, just in case the Creepy Puppeteer wheels, but that seems like an impossibility. Every single other drafter at the table would have to not be drafting red for the Creepy Puppeteer to wheel. Because if we're taking a red card here, we're taking something filler like a Runebound Wolf in a deck without wolves and werewolves. So I think it's just the 4th copy of Scattered Thoughts. Pick 8 here. Now that we have 4 Scattered Thoughts, another Siphon Essence seems better for our deck than an Adamant Will. Adamant Will is a fine combat trick for any deck that's just playing a lot of creatures getting into combat a lot, but Siphon Essence, it's a fine card for any deck that's sitting there with a bunch of instant speed card draw spells like we have. We're going to be an annoying blue-white control deck today, it looks like. Alright, only 2 on-color cards here. Yet again, good green stuff with the Slinger. Maybe misread Draft Pod here. We've got Estwald, Shield Basher, the good aggressive card, or Dawn Heartgeist, the very mediocre defensive card. We do have some enchantments to gain some life. We've got potentially some Disturb cards, if we can pick them up. We actually haven't picked up a single Disturb card yet. I think this deck would prefer 2-mana 1/3 than a 4-mana 4/2. Wow, Flourishing Hunter so late here. Definitely feels like we would be in a much better spot had we pushed into green earlier, but at this point, when it's between that and a Selhoffen Tumor and Soul Cipher board, I mean, I'm just going to take that. I doubt it pans out at this point. Pick 10 here that we're going to get any more green playables this late. But if we were going to get playables in any color, it would be green, based on how the earlier picks were going. Wish we had pushed into green earlier for sure. Now we'll take a Dreadlight Monstrosity here for kind of a game ender filler card. Well, alright. Well, I mean, blue is pretty open too. I just don't know how open white is. Blue, we're getting Scattered Thoughts all over the place. We're getting Cradle of Safeties and Geistlight Snares. Like, these are good cards. So, I mean, yeah, blue is certainly open. I think we just wish we were in green-blue. Okay, well, maybe. Maybe we are, because there's a Vile Spawn Spider there. The green-blue gold card, certainly a powerful one. Arena just giving us all the chances in the world here, giving us the Vile Spawn Spider with only 2 cards left in the pack, that really late Flourishing Hunter, and now they're just going to give us a blue Mythic Rare, so that we're only super tied to blue, so we can push into whatever we want secondarily. Cemetery Illuminator's easily the pick here. 3 mana for a 2/3 flyer. When it enters the battlefield or attacks, exile a card from a graveyard. We can look at the top card of our library and we can cast a spell from the top of our library if it shares a creature type with the exiled card once per turn. So we play this, exile a creature card from somebody's graveyard, then anytime we have a creature on top of our deck, we just get to cast that from the top of our deck, essentially drawing us a card. Incredibly powerful card. Lantern Bearer is really good, and it's exactly what we're looking for with our exploit cards and cards that care about enchantments, but can't really take it over such a powerful mythic rare here. We would really like to wheel Lantern Bearer, but I doubt it happens because it's the first copy we've seen, meaning the bots have been scooping them up in other places. Put my green cards back up here to consider. Green picks. We have Stitched Assistant and Wretched Throng, which are fine blue cards. Not super great. Definitely want multiples of the Throng to make it okay. Really bad as a 1 of, or even a 2 of. Nurturing Presence is fine if you're going for an aggressive Disturb deck, but we definitely don't look aggressive with a bunch of counterspells and draw spells here. And then in green we have Spore Crawler, which is a nice 3 mana 3/2 to trade off with something and draw you a card when it dies, or Dormant Grove, which is the kind of card that takes over the game. If the game goes long, you just keep getting a +1/+1 counter on one of your cards every single turn, eventually spit out a 3/6 Vigilance that gives your whole field Vigilance as well. Having a field full of large vigilant creatures is going to be really hard to beat, and they will be large because they'll have enough counters to have a 6 toughness creature out before this flips. So Dormant Grove is the strongest card in the pack, I think, and I might just scoop it up here because I don't think that we're missing all that much in blue or white. Stitched Assistant or Wretched Throng are fine. Nurturing Presence, fine if you're aggro, but we're not. But Dormant Grove just really good at taking over the game if we do end up pushing into green here. We see another Flourishing Hunter for pushing into green. If we want to stick to white, there's a Heron of Hope, but in blue it's just another Stitched Assistant, which is super whatever. I think I'll be taking another Flourishing Hunter here and trying to make this last second push into green work for us. Now we have a Snarling Wolf, Selhoff Entomber, Heron Blessed Geist, or Geistlight Snare. I already have 2 Geistlight Snares and 2 Siphon Essences. I think that's more than enough counterspells. So it's between Entomber, Wolf, and Geist. Maybe the Honored Heirloom here so that we can do all 3 colors if need be, which is definitely a possibility. I think I'm just going to take Selhoff Entomber here, though. It's the only color that we're definitely playing. And we have enough blue that we can just be a 2-color deck either way we go. We only need 1 or 2 more green cards to do that, I believe. Yeah, we only need 2 more green cards to be a blue-green deck. And we already have enough white cards to be a blue-white deck. So I highly doubt I'm going to try to push to 3 colors here. Yeah, we already have enough for blue-white. Yeah, we do not need the mana fixing here. We're just going to play a 2-color deck. Anyways, now we have Wolf Strike in green, Syncopate in blue. This is like the best counterspell in the format, but because I already have 4, I'm a little more interested in just like a regular removal spell like Wolf Strike here, awkwardly enough. There's the Guardian Paladin if we go 3-color, but even if we go 3-color, we just don't have +1/+1 counter synergies anyway. At least not a lot of them. So I'll just take the Wolf Strike here. Now we have Chill of the Grave, Sanctify, and Snarling Wolf. Pretty medium cards here. Just take a Chill of the Grave for our core color. Evolving Wilds, I suppose, here. We don't really want a 3rd Selhoff Entomber or a Moldgraph Millipede. Sporeback Wolf's a pretty solid 2-drop, and I think we don't have a lot of those if we go in blue-green. We already have double Alchemist Retrieval, 1 Unholy Efficient, but I don't even want to run it in the first place if I do end up in white. Blood Servitor's okay because we go into either deck, but it's not particularly exciting. What does it look like if we go blue-green here? We go blue-green here. Yeah, we don't have enough 2-drops. We have 3. So yeah, it's a nice Sporeback Wolf to fill in the curve. Get some more early game blockers. Apprentice Sharpshooter is going to be an excellent blocker. A 1/4 reach. You don't need to train this card for it to be solid. It's kind of just a slightly smaller Giant Spider. Giant Spider being a 4 mana 2/4 reach. It's been a good blocker since the history of the game. Yeah, that's the best card in this pack. It's just the Sharpshooter. take one Throng and have a one Throng deck. That'd be pretty awkward. Or we could take Stitched Assistant or Blood Servitor. I think it's got to be Stitched Assistant there between those two. That Heirloom, a third Heron of Hope. Take the Heirloom just in case. Now we have an Heirloom and Evolving Wilds. Now we have 2 Heirlooms and an Evolving Wilds for playing 3 color. But I'm still not sure that we need or want to do that. Definitely have to make some choices when we get into the deck building here. Yeah, this deck looks pretty solid just in blue-green. Could imagine what this would look like if we pushed into green earlier. Yeah, this is just a very solid blue-green kind of late-game deck. We try to just control the early game plays with a bunch of counter spells, and then drop down some big monsters. That'll gain us a bunch of life to really get back into the game. 12 creatures here. We definitely don't want to cut creatures then, because we want to be able to block throughout the game. I guess it's 13 creatures if you count Dormant Grove, but even then. So we probably want to cut like the Geistlight Snares because we have 3 spirits, 2 enchantments, not enough to reduce the cost that often. We'd probably rather just have Siphon Essence the majority of the time, just to counter bombs and get us a blood token. Chill of the Grave does slow our opponent down, but this is much better in a tempo deck where you have your own threats to be attacking with, so that this is not only stopping your opponent from attacking you, but helping you get in and attack them. It's not doing that too much in this deck. By the time we're attacking, we're going to be attacking with stuff that's hopefully just bigger than their whole field, or is just unblockable like the Monstrosity can be. We have a lot of Scattered Thoughts here. We might want to cut 1 or 2 of those, but I suppose if we just cut Chill of the Grave and double Geistlight Snare, that's already everything. That's already, bam, we're down to a 40-card deck right there. Definitely don't want to cut Cradle of Safety. It's really good with our 6 mana 6/6s to counter their removal spells. Vilespawn Spider isn't even that good in our deck because we don't have a high creature count, awkwardly enough. Even though it is the blue-green gold card, it's still a 2 mana 2/3 reach, so it's still probably worth it. But we don't have anything to bring things back from our grave, so we don't care about the self-mill, and we don't have a lot of creatures to be putting in our grave with the self-mill, so it's actually a little awkward here. We might have to take a look at blue-white and see if that... It's definitely a more synergistic deck. I don't know if it's more powerful, though, because we do have double Flourishing Hunter, Dormant Grove, Wolf Strike, some big power in green. I guess we should consider cutting Vilespawn Spider. Kind of like cutting down the middle here. Just cut 1 Retrieval, 1 Geistlight Snare, 1 Scattered Thoughts, and just have a nice variety of spells at our disposal. Especially with triple Scattered Thoughts to kind of search for whatever specific sort of spells we want. Be nice to have more of a variety there. And then just keep Vilespawn Spider in because we just need creatures in here. Need our 12 creatures. How's our color distribution looking? 17 blue symbols, 7 green. Mana seems a little unbalanced. 9-7 split here with an Evolving Wilds to make it all kosher. Should be more than good enough. We could even go for like a 10-6 here. Might be a bit bold. We already basically have 10 blue sources. 9 islands and Evolving Wilds. 1 out of every 4. Maybe we do want more blue because we would like to cast Cemetery Illuminators early as possible. We have that's double blue, Diver Scab is double blue, and Dreadlight Monstrosity is double blue. Don't really need to be casting green cards till later, although we would prefer to cast our 2-drops turn 2. Could go 10-6 here. So we only need a single green mana until we have 6 mana for Flourishing Hunters, and by that time we're likely to have cast a Scattered Thoughts that can pick up a second forest along with whatever else. I kind of like this as the mana base, so I'm going to save that deck as is, and then we're going to take a look at blue-white and see if that looks more powerful here. It's definitely possible. I mean, we have more synergy in blue-white. Need 2 more cards in here, so we'd play another Scattered Thoughts and another Geistlight Snare, I guess, if we go blue-white. Don't think I really like the idea of a 3-color splashy deck here, because we just don't have anything powerful enough to want to splash for. Like, if we were blue-white splashing green, we would be splashing for our best green card is like Dormant Grove, maybe. And then like Flourishing Hunter is the biggest reason that I want to be in green here, but it's kind of hard to splash a double green card. If we were blue-green splashing white, it would really just be for like Van Helsing's Holy Ward, the Circle of Confinement here. It's just really weird. So let's take a look. Disregard the mana base, we're just taking a look at the deck in general. I think the blue-green deck looks better than this. This looks very, very average here in blue-white. Blue-green looks pretty average too, let's be honest, but no, just none of the really great blue-white stuff in here. Yeah, I think I'm going to stick to the blue-green deck. Yeah, I think we're going to roll with this blue-green kind of late-game deck. A couple of counter spells for the early game, couple early-game blockers. Just try to make it to where we're casting enough card draw spells like Scattered Thoughts to overwhelm our opponent with more cards than they have, or bigger cards than they have with the Flourishing Hunters and Dreadlight Monstrosities, or Dormant Grove kind of cards to close out the game. So without further ado, let's go ahead and see how it does. Here we are with a pretty great opener in game 1. We have blue and green thanks to our Evolving Wilds to pull out a forest. We have a 2-drop, a 3-drop, and a powerful 4-drop, the Dormant Grove, and then we can just cast a Scattered Thoughts later to refuel and have more to cast for the rest of the game. So seems like a pretty great opener here. Get that Vile Spawn Spider out first, I think. Start milling ourselves so we can maybe pop it for 1/1s later. Or if nothing else, see if we draw out removal on this. Biolume Egg from our opponent, unfortunately a 0/4 blocker. When they exploit that and sacrifice it, it'll come back as a 4/4 from their graveyard as well, which is not a good time for us. So let's just get our Sharpshooter down so we can attack with it alongside our Vile Spawn Spider and get some training going. You have to be a little bit worried about milling ourselves out if we start with Vile Spawn Spider in this deck because we have triple Scattered Thoughts. That also mills 4 deep. Ooh, Dream Shacklegeist, that's a pretty bad time. Mill one of our Scattered Thoughts. We do not hit our 4th mana here, which is pretty awkward. So I guess we're just holding up a counterspell because our alternative is just to play a 1/3 on the ground, which just does not do much. So we're going to attack with both here. We get in for some damage or we kill the Dream Shacklegeist. The alternative is this is just going to tap our Reach blocker next turn anyway. Well, I guess it only taps one of them. But it would tap the 1/4, and then I guess we could trade on blocks. Maybe it would have been better to hold back. Kind of forgot Apprentice Sharpshooter had Reach too. I was just considering the Vile Spawn Spider, so I was like, well, might as well attack with the Spider, and if we're attacking with the Spider, then might as well attack with the Sharpshooter, get the training. Alright, so we Siphon Essence, the other flyer they play there. So they just have the 1 for now. Dreadlight Monstrosity is a draw, still no 4th mana here. Probably discard Monstrosity and just try to hit it. It wouldn't be that bad to just discard the Selhoff Tumor though. Puts another creature in our grave for Vile Spawn Spider, and it's not a card we're looking to cast at any time here. We did draw the 4th mana, which is excellent. Now we're holding up a Geistlight Snare. They probably tap down Vile Spawn Spider to get in for 3 more damage here, or 4 more damage now that they have a Traveling Minister. But that'll mean next turn both our creatures will untap. And we'll be able to block the Dream Shacklegeist in the future. So only tap down 1 per turn. Alright, so they're just going to choose to keep the Sharpshooter locked down. Which probably means no attacks here. Doubt they want to trade Dream Shacklegeist into the Vile Spawn Spider. But I would certainly take that trade if they send it in. Alright, they're just going to gain some life. Maybe pass the turn here. Cruel Witness, another big flyer. That one's big enough to kill Vile Spawn Spider. So we're definitely going to counter that. Big enough to kill the Vile Spawn Spider and survive. Now we have a Wolf Strike to kill the Dream Shackle Geist, and then we're not worried about any threats from them. We're just worried about milling ourselves, because we're already 8 cards in our graveyard. Yeah, I like Wolf Strike on the Dream Shackle Geist. I'm just going to go for it while they're tapped out. And we still get to hold up Alchemist Retrieval if they have some kind of removal, but if they use removal on Vile Spawn Spider, I think I'm very okay with that. Alright, Wanderlight Spirit from our opponent. Yeah, as much as our Vile Spawn Spider is looking a bit like a liability, having cast it on turn 2 and just milled ourselves so much, it's also a big reason why we're like very much still in this game, is just because it's a 2/3 reach for 2 mana. Our opponent has cast a lot of flyers. The reach has been very important. Probably just play Dormant Grove here and start suiting up the spider. We can kill them before we mill ourselves out. If we just buff our stuff, because now they're both training up. They crack back for 3 damage, we hit for 3, but they do gain a life when they crack back. But by getting this attack in, we're buffing Sharpshooter again, so I think it's worth it. Alchemist Retrieval's pretty bad at protecting our stuff now, because they both have counters on them, so we'll still lose all the counters if they try to removal spell one of them. So it's not a great deal to Alchemist Retrieval if they're going to cast a removal spell. 1 card in hand, Necro Duality it is, so if they cast any more zombies, we're in for a big, painful time, because all of their zombies will come with a copy of themselves. We can make both our creatures 4 power now thanks to Dormant Grove, so we will definitely do that. They're both big enough to kill the Biolume Egg. So we are killing the Biolume Egg, excuse me, and hitting them for 4. Now we can play a Sporeback Wolf and still hold up Alchemist Retrieval to bounce something if need be. Just getting more power on this board. There's a Storm Chaser Drake. 2/1 flyer. Not a zombie Drake, luckily for us, so it does not come with a copy. Gain a life, buff it for a moment here. Attack with their creature that can't block. We can Alchemist Retrieval to bounce the Drake. Then we have, if we flip Dormant Grove, we have 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. We have exact lethal flipping Dormant Grove here. Alright, and they scoop them up because we use Dormant Grove to buff the spider. That makes the spider 5 power and 6 toughness. Because we've buffed something that becomes 6 toughness, Dormant Grove flips into a 3/6 vigilance. So we're attacking with a 5 power creature. Because we're attacking with a 5 power creature, this gets trained up. This is also a 5 power creature, that's 10 right there. Plus 2 from Wolf and 3 from Dormant Grove, exactly 15. Pretty nice stuff from the Dormant Grove that game. Really took it for us in the end there. And the Apprentice Sharpshooter as well, so that we could get a counter on 2 of our creatures every time we used it. Game 2 now. We've got both our colors thanks to Evolving Wilds. Sporeback Wolf into Wolf Strike for big flavor. We have a Vile Spawn Spider if we need a reach creature down. But when I can just play a 2 mana 2/2 anyway, I think I'd rather just do that than the spider until we know we need reach. Always concerned about the self-mill. In a deck with 3 draw spells that if we cast all 3 of them will mill us 12 cards total. Playing against red here. We've got our Sporeback Wolf down turn 2. They're playing red-green. Nice werewolf color pair. With Hungry Ridgewolf down turn 2. That gets +1/+0 and trample as long as they control another wolf or werewolf. We could Wolf Strike it, but it doesn't seem worth it. We'll just attack with our 2/4 and then play a 2/3. That way, unless they play a wolf or werewolf, they can't attack into the 2/3. Even if they do, I might just take the trade, because green-red is very unlikely to have flyers. And then we just don't have to worry about any of the late-game self-mill. And because both their creatures are Hungry Ridgewolves, if we take the trade, then they both just become 2/2s instead of 3/2s. That being said, they did not go for the attack, which is a little surprising to me, but maybe they want us to mill ourselves here. So they have a couple 3/2s. We can attack with a 2/4. Or a 2/3 here, really. I think I'll just attack with a 2/4 because it's not going to block super well. It is going to trade into one of them, but we'll take damage from it anyway. And this way, the only way they can kill this is if they double block, and if they go for a double block, we can ruin things for them if they don't have a combat trick in hand. That's the question here. Do they have a combat trick? I just let this happen. It's basically the same as if I'd blocked. So we just let this happen. Alright. Super glad I didn't go for the Wolf Strike yet. Now we can get a 3-for-1 instead of a 2-for-1. So now it's worth dumping the Wolf Strike. But otherwise, I think we're fine just taking the 1-for-1 there and then holding onto the Wolf Strike for when they play a scarier creature later. But if we get to kill both the Ridge Wolves plus a combat trick at the cost of 1 Wolf Strike, then that gets very worth it, in my opinion. Hook, Hand, Mariner. Unfortunately, no counterspell in hand, so Scattered Thoughts it is. Get a Retrieval and an Island, perfect for our Cemetery Illuminator. We'll have a Dreadlight Monstrosity next turn. We can bounce that to their hand if we want to just tempo them out here, but we don't have the mana to do that, plus cast our Cemetery Illuminator. So it's either cast the Illuminator or bounce the Hook and Mariner. If we bounce the Mariner, they spend next turn recasting it, and they take 4 damage, go down to 10, then we just cast a 5/5 that can attack into that. I'm actually weirdly okay with that. If we play Cemetery Illuminator, what are our card types left in deck? 5 instants, 1 enchantment, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 creatures, so we probably just pick creatures off Illuminator. We have a flyer down. Yeah, no, let's just bounce that Mariner and just go for tempo, just keeping the pressure on them. Play a Dreadlight Monstrosity, that'll kill them in 2 attacks. That would have been a super good play if we managed to pick up a counterspell off of our Scattered Thoughts earlier, because then we would get to bounce it to hand and still have the 3 mana up to counter it, because all our counterspells only cost 3. So I think, yeah, Alchemist Retrieval is actually pretty sweet in this deck. Maybe I should run 2 of those and no Crippling Chill. Because that actually does seem like a pretty legitimate play pattern, is our opponent slams down a 4-drop turn 4, and then our turn 4 is just casting a Scattered Thoughts, and then off of the Scattered Thoughts we just go Alchemist Retrieval Counterspell, and then we untap with 5 mana up, spend 2 of it to Alchemist Retrieval, they spend their next turn recasting it, and then we counter it. It seems like it could very well happen with the amount of counterspells in our deck and the amount of Scattered Thoughts in our deck. Alright, so they're just going to let the Rip Hook Raider become a 6/4 here. Four creatures in grave for the Vilespawn Spider. Oh yeah, it just says on the card. Make 4 1/1s. Pretty soon, Vilespawn Spider is going to be able to just pop off. For now, though, let's just Cemetery Illuminator. I don't really want to exile a creature from our grave, because then Vilespawn Spider's a little weaker. But if we exile a card from our grave here, then we can make our Dreadlight Monstrosity unblockable, which is pretty big when they're at 10, so I think I am exiling an instant, and we have an instant on top of our library, so that pans out really well. So exile an instant. We get to look at the top card, which is an instant, and we can cast it. Cool. So we just have a counterspell up here, just straight up. We could attack all here. They take that trade and take 4, or they kill one of these and take 7, and we have a flyer out. Sure. Let's actually just attack all here. Now that we have a Cemetery Illuminator down, we can definitely lose our Dreadlight Monstrosity here, even if it is losing it to a combat trick or something. Wolf Strike? Yeah, that's going to be a no. It's going to be a no from me, dog. Well, we're not casting our Siphon Essence anymore, but pretty important to stop that Wolf Strike from going off. 5 mana up from our opponent here. Infestation Expert it is. That is on the ground, so Cemetery Illuminator gets to keep getting in there. Chill of the Grave on top. We can cast that off the Illuminator. Do have to be a little worried about milling ourselves. We're down to 14 cards left. Let's tap down the Infestation Expert. Tap down the good blocker they have, and then probably pop out a bunch of spiders. We attack all, put them... I guess we just attack all, put them to 1, actually, instead. Cemetery Illuminator can only cast cards off the top, so even if we exile land, we can't play a land off the top. It's kind of weird like that. I would rather play the Entomber than the card draw spell here, just so we have more creatures. We only have to hit them with 1 creature with 1 power to end it, so let's just get the board all wide. Alright, and there's the concession. We are now 2-0. Round 3 now. We have the double blue for the Cemetery Illuminator thanks to Evolving Wilds. So, pretty solid keep here. A red deck again from our opponent. Red-black, so red-black vampires being primarily what you're going to see in that color pair. They do get the ball rolling with a turn 2, 2-1 first strike as long as it's attacking. Also spits out a blood token when it dies, the Blood Petal Celebrant. Down to 18 here. And it's going to be our turn. Alright, well, I think I'd rather play the Sharpshooter than the Illuminator here. That way if they have removal, it's not getting cast on our Mythic, plus this one blocks a lot better for toughness, makes it a lot safer against a first striking attacker than a 2-3 would be. Now they've played a 4-3 though, which is definitely an issue. Just Alchemist Retrieval that to slow them down, or we play a Cemetery Illuminator without exiling anything good. Probably going to end up using Alchemist Retrieval, but let's just pass for now and see what happens during their turn. They play their 5th mana. Play a Foreboding Statue. That'll become a 5/5 eventually. For now, it helps them mana fix. They're not going to need any more mana. They already have 5, but they might need an off color for some kind of bomb splash. It's just a 1-2 on the board. Really more concerned about just surviving in the immediate right now. Taking 4 a turn is going to be really painful. Sanguine Statuette, that's basically a 3-3 whenever they crack a blood token. So that'll be hitting us as well. Alright, so Lightning Wolf is coming in. We're going to just bounce that. Make them recast that next turn, and then they're just hitting with a 2-1, a 1-2, and maybe a 3-3 next turn. Unfortunately, still no 4th mana here for the Scattered Thoughts or Repository Scab. So we're just holding up our instants again. We could Cemetery Illuminator, exile the Retrieval. If we're okay with just letting them get the 4-3 back down instead of countering it. Kind of not okay with that though. I'll be more okay with that when I know that I can cast my Flourishing Hunter soon, but right now I just don't know how many turns it's going to take to make it there. And if we just put a 2/3 flyer on this board, like a single little 4/3 is going to wreck us over time. We can counter that. Should we? Yeah, they don't have the mana for their 4/3 here. So they're not attacking us with anything if we counter this. We basically still dealt with the 4/3 for one more turn. It's not coming out quite yet. They only have 1 mana up here. Cool, there's the 4th mana, so now we are getting there towards Flourishing Hunter type stuff. I think now is when, yeah, I'm cool with just dropping Cemetery Illuminator, exiling an instant. Or we hold on to Scattered Thoughts, actually, to hit land drops. It's actually pretty big, too. Let's actually do that here. So, we're still playing kind of like a control deck here, just like blue-green control, weirdly enough. Which is still not really my wheelhouse. So that is going to resolve. The 4/3 is back. Past turn, we Scattered Thoughts now. Looking to hit our 2 lands for Flourishing Hunter. Another Scattered Thoughts, Cradle of Safety. I love both of those cards. We could go Cradle of Safety Island and then cast a Cemetery Illuminator with the Cradle of Safety up for it. Or we could just grab the 2 lands to know that we're casting Flourishing Hunter, or we could go land Scattered Thoughts, and if we don't hit another land next turn, then we could just cast another Scattered Thoughts. This might be greedy, but I like Cradle Island here. Gives us a good way to use all 5 of our mana next turn. Except now we've drawn Siphon Essence. So we could cast a 2-mana creature like a Selhoff Entomber and still hold up a counterspell. We're not blocking Lightning Wolf well, but we're not blocking Lightning Wolf well even if we cast a Cemetery Illuminator. This is weird. I'm just going to cast the Entomber. I guess we're holding a Wolf Strike or Siphon Essence this way. Though I highly doubt we're Wolf Striking. With 1-power creatures on the board. So Foreboding Statue will be a 5/5 once they get to their end step. There is another Lightning Wolf, so we can Siphon Essence that. Get our blood token in the process. And we will get hit by this one now, though, but we've kept it off of us for quite some time, to where we are very close from casting our 6/6 now. That will gain us 4 life when it hits the board. Alright, and I think we have to just go for that. I don't think we can wait till we have 8 mana to hold up a Cradle of Safety for this Flourishing Hunter. They already did attempt to cast a Lacerate Flesh on our 1/4, so if they had more removal in hand, it's quite possible they would just have still been going to kill the 1/4 reach. So back up to 18 life here, plus we have the biggest creature on board for now. 6/6 Flourishing Hunter. Selhoff Entomber's ability is at the ready now if we want to discard a Repository Scab or Cemetery Illuminator to draw another card. But I don't think I will. Dollhouse of Horrors is a very big problem. That is a huge problem in any game that goes long. Not a great card against super aggressive decks, but it is a great card against super slow decks like ours. So every time one of their creatures dies, they get a 1/1 version of it. Oh, but the Forsaken Thresher is a construct, so it's actually a 2/2 version. And then the next one they get will be a 3/3 version. So get good value off of that for sure. I don't want to cast Vilespawn Spider. I might discard Vilespawn Spider to Selhoff and Tumor. We might get some use out of it there. Let's get our Cemetery Illuminator down now so we can just start chipping it in the sky. Hopefully find lethal over time. Now we've got our kind of win condition down with a Cradle of Safety to protect it. Got the biggest creature on the board to block whatever they're doing. We have our plan to close things out here. Just gotta hope everything goes according to. Creature on top of our library. So if we exile a creature right now, we could just cast that immediately, but there is no creature in a grave because they just exiled theirs and we don't have one, so we just exile an instant from our grave then. We don't have any graveyard recursions, so it doesn't matter which one we choose. I think we just pass here. We're definitely not attacking. Bloody Betrayal to gain control of the Flourishing Hunter for a turn to attack us with it. That's like annoying, but we can kind of take the hit. I guess they get another blood token, and then if they have anything that sacrifices, that'll be really bad for us, but I doubt they do. That is going to be a pretty big hit. We probably can't allow that. I'm going to Cradle it. Don't love not having the Cradle for our Cemetery Illuminator now, though. I am going to discard this Vilespawn Spider. That just seems real risky to drop on the board. I think we have no creatures in our graveyard, and we're just going to start milling ourselves. Ooh, we got another Flourishing Hunter coming up. That's going to be beautiful. Yeah, plus now we can exile a creature from our grave to the Cemetery Illuminator for if we hit more creatures. Still don't really want to attack with the first Flourishing Hunter, but once I have 2 out and the mana to hold up Wolfstrike, then I will. So like next turn I'll attack with one of the hunters, because I can make their blocks go really poorly if I hold up a Wolfstrike. Right now I don't want a Wolfstrike because I want all our mana to cast another Flourishing Hunter. So I'm not going to send in the first, I will just send in the Illuminator, unless they remove it here. Yeah, thinking about doing something here. At instant speed. Alright, they've chosen to do nothing, so we'll attack with the Illuminator. Exile a creature from grave, so now we can cast creatures and instants off the top. Hit for 2. They're on a 9-turn clock, and we have 17 cards left in the deck, so we should not mill out if they don't kill the Illuminator. But we're also going to speed up the clock because we're going to start attacking with one of these hunters and chipping away at their board by getting a good attack with a Wolfstrike as a surprise. Blood Fountain. Alright, they have no creatures in grave, and when they do, they have Dollhouse of Horrors anyway, so that's basically just for the blood token currently. Usually that's a really big deal at this point in the game, because you've got some creatures in grave to recast some big stuff. But luckily for us, we're just not really killing anything. We killed 1 card and they already brought it back with Dollhouse. Right. Crack another blood for another land. They're getting out of their mana flood with these blood tokens. Alright, and they pass the turn. Not really going to discard either of these, so we'll just go to our turn. Play a land. We can pick up a counterspell with Repository Scab. That seems like a pretty good deal. Probably discard the Selhoffen Tumor, or sacrifice it, I mean. So their best block to ruin a Wolf Strike for us would be block with their... Actually, no, they don't really have a good block. Even if they block with like the 5/5, 4/3, and 2/2, we would just Wolf Strike the 5/5 and then kill the other two without losing the 7/7. Yeah, no. Wolf Strike's going to be disgusting here. Their only block that can kill Flourishing Hunters if they block it with literally everybody, and then I kill their whole board. I guess we hit a sorcery now. Although I don't think I have sorceries in my deck. But I've already exiled an instant and a creature, so we may as well. Go for a double block here, see if we get to kill both via Wolf Strike. So far, so good. Yep, clear both of those out. Now we can just start attacking with everybody in the future. Get our Repository Scab down. Would I rather pick up Wolf Strike or Siphon Essence? I'd probably rather pick up Wolf Strike. The only thing Siphon Essence is better at is the fact that it can give us a blood token, plus it can stop enter the battlefield effects. It's like literally, unless they have a Planeswalker in their deck, it's probably better to pick up Wolf Strike so that we can just clear out a blocker and get more damage in quicker. It's definitely not best to pick up Geistlight Snare, because if they know we have Geistlight Snare in hand, they can easily play around it at this point in the game, just start actually playing their extra lands instead of using them for blood tokens. So I think it's Wolf Strike over the counterspell. Use it to clear the board and close the game out quicker. Or use it the same way that we'd use our Siphon Essence to just kill whatever bomb creature they play in the future. Lightning Wolf is back. They've got 2 mana up. They'll need to play another land if they want to play the Forsaken Monument. They do play another land and the Foreboding Statue. It's Forsaken Thresher, not Forsaken Monument. Alright. Well, we've got a Wolf Strike in hand. They know about it, but what's their best block? On a 6/6, they block with literally everybody. We still kill Lightning Wolf and don't lose the 6/6, so we just attack all 3 here. We're at 25 life. We're super free to do that. This like 1-for-1 trades at worst. They block with these two, and I guess that 1-for-1 trades into a 2/2. That's kind of bad, but they're at 16 life. We can afford to go down a little bit in value like that. Not sure we send in the Sharpshooter 2, but maybe we do. Send in a 2/5, what do? We do 1-for-1 traded at least. They have to double block to kill, and only one of their creatures is more than 2 toughness? Yeah, sure. Let's just jam in. Now we can cast Artifacts, I guess. Just jam in. They know we have Wolf Strike, but that's going to be really hard to play around with everything coming in here. They could try to just crack back at us, but they have to make some trump blocks here, or this is lethal on board. And even if they crack back at us, it's for what? 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9? 9 damage when we're at 25. This feels very safe. Double block on the Sharpshooter. Chump block on the Hunter. Chump block on the Hunter. Alright, we can clear the whole board without losing anything if we just Wolf Strike there. So we may as well, because we have a Siphon Essence backup here. If we didn't have a Siphon Essence backup, we might be okay just losing the 2/5 so that we still have a Wolf Strike if they play a scarier creature. But because we have Siphon Essence backup, I feel like we're very free to just use Wolf Strike willy-nilly. Because they can get like a 1/1 version of one of those back with Dollhouse of Horrors. It's not a problem. Just worried about what they may potentially draw into and cast. And looks like nothing, because that is the concession. We are now 3-0. Round 4 now in the Innistrad Crimson Vow quick draft. Got our turn 2 Vile Spawn Spider that sketches me out every time because I don't want to mill out. And our opponent starts with a turn 1 Lantern Bearer. So it is nice to have a reach creature out in response to that, but Lantern Bearer is a phenomenal card, and they are blue-white disturb over there. And Circle of Confinement turn 2. Alright, this is what we wished our deck was during pack 1 when we started going towards blue-white disturb, so a little worried. The decks can really pop off with a good curve, and Lantern Bearer into Circle of Confinement is certainly quite a good start. Turn 3. Do they have the Brine Comber too? Wow, yeah, that is the ideal curve, the picture-perfect curve for the disturb decks. Even if we kill either of these, they just come back and they get another 1/1 flyer out of them. So we definitely don't want a Wolf Strike here, so I guess we're just playing our Entomber, or holding up a Wolf Strike for their end step for whatever else they cast. Entomber's only going to block one thing, and it's just going to be the Brine Comber on the ground anyway, but it's not really doing much in our hand. Could attack and try to get them to double block, but then again, even if they do that, sure, I kill both and keep Assistant down, but then they just Brine Comber around a Bearer or something. Ooh, Whispering Wizard. That is an excellent target for a Wolf Strike, and I'm going to get that out of here right now. And we only need the 1/3 to block the one ground creature that they have, so we may as well get in for 3 with our other creature. Not taking too much damage here, at least. 2 a turn. If we can resolve a Flourishing Hunter, this game isn't looking that bad for us after the pretty great start from our opponent. Got a Binding Geist as well to disturb. And a Fleeting Spirit. That's just a great 2-drop in general. Not really specific to a disturb deck, though. They can give it first strike, or they can exile it and bring it back. If I ever try to remove it, they just discard a card to save it, basically. Get our Flourishing Hunter down here while they are tapped out. Can't really attack in well anymore. If we attack in, we trade our Assistant into a Binding Geist, and then the Binding Geist comes back to give something -2/-0. Unfortunately, our opponent does have the removal for Flourishing Hunter. Not much we can do about that. Could not afford to wait till we have 8 mana to play our Flourishing Hunter. So we just play it when we get around a counter spell at least. They can't give Fleeting Spirit first strike here, so this is like the one time we could actually trade with it because they don't have white mana up. Sure. And we have killed it. Fleeting Spirit is in the grave. So now we have an Apprentice Sharpshooter to block the flyers. Yeah, we're still very much safe for now. Just gotta... We definitely have to draw into something. So our opponent is still in the better position for sure. They've got the higher life total. They've got a blood token coming out of the Sigarda's Imprisonment when they need it. We have a Cradle of Safety, though, for that, so that's not a problem. Kind of stopped them from attacking us, and now we're holding up a counter spell. It's something here. We've got a shot. Well, they've immediately drawn into something, I think. Oh no, Binding Geist. Yeah, Binding Geist makes it so we don't actually kill any of the flyers on their attacks. And if I block here, they're just gonna make it permanently -2 power. so that we can't kill anything on blocks still in the future. That being said, that is 3 damage, so I really kind of have to block that. I guess I could do this and just take 2, and I don't kill the Binding Geist for now. I guess it's accomplishing the same thing whether it's on the board or not. It's just going to keep lowering Sharpshooter's power. So we might as well lower the number of attackers that they have while doing it, but then we lower the number of blockers we have because our Entomber dies. Yeah, it's a hard choice. I'm just going to keep as many blockers as we can here instead. Do this. Alright, they're going to exile the Flourishing Hunter, turn it into a blood token to discard their land in hand to draw something. Scattered Thoughts, pretty great draw. I would rather hold up Siphon Essence than jam that out right now. That is definitely super helpful though. Alright, so they do discard their land to draw a card. And now they've got 2 cards in hand still, plus a Brinecomber in the grave for 2 mana to just make a 1/1 flyer. Yeah, that's such a great card. The Brinebound Gift. I guess now if I kill Binding Geist, they're even getting another 1/1 flyer out of it, right? Because they put the gift onto something. Wait, no, they're not, because they're not going to put the Spectral Binding on their own creature just to make another 1/1 flyer. Sure, yeah, let's kill that now, I guess. The Brinebound Gift, they get another 1/1 flyer whenever they target their own creature that has the gift on it. Get rid of the Shield Basher, because that is a ridiculously good attacker. We do have a 5 toughness creature, but as soon as they buff that up once or get rid of the Sharpshooter, it's just a dangerously good attacker. A 4/2 Indestructible on attacks card. Another Siphon Essence here? Well, now I really want to hold that up too. Although if I don't put another creature out here, I'm taking 2, going to 7 life. It's going to be painful. But even if I Scattered Thoughts, all I can do is put down like a 2-mana creature. So I think we have to just Scattered Thoughts and hope for one of our 6-drops. And if we're hoping for a 6-drop, something that costs more than 2, we might as well cast it in their end step anyway, just in case we need to Siphon Essence again. Alright, so they get another 1/1 flyer. Yeah, we are really, really hoping for Flourishing Hunter over anything else here. Sigarda's Imprisonment, brutal. We can't counter that, and we don't have another Cradle of Safety in our deck, even if we Scattered Thoughts here. Yeah, that's a brutal top deck. Let's see what we get off Scattered Thoughts. Chill the Grave Alchemist Retrieval. We can return our own Sharpshooter to hand. But we don't have the mana to return Cradle and recast it. We're 1 mana off from that. That would have been so fancy. But we can return our Sharpshooter and recast it next turn at least, I guess. Or we can return their Imprisonment out of nowhere and kill one of their flyers, actually. And they have to recast it next turn, but then it does permanently kill the Sharpshooter. I'm not actually sure which is better. It's probably better to kill Vampire Slayer so they can't get more 1/1 flyers. But then again, yeah, we are letting them just kill the Sharpshooter. But that way we're killing the Vampire Slayer. And more importantly, the Brinebound Gift. Discard this land. No, that's not what I'm looking for. So they Sigarda's Imprisonment the Sharpshooter now. Guess we wait on Chill of the Grave till their turn. Play this land so we can cast Chill of the Grave and Siphon Essence. If we top deck a Geistlight Snare, we can maybe counter the removal if they've cast something else before they do it, but they haven't. Let's see what we top deck anyway. Just another land. Even if we counter that, it's another damage because they just slam it onto one of their flyers. But it slows them down a tiny bit. And it gives us a blood token, more importantly, to dig for a Flourishing Hunter. Scattered Thoughts. I mean, we dig far with this deck. I'm going to use the blood token first, because if we top deck Flourishing Hunter, we can still cast it, but we can't if we Scattered Thoughts. More land. Scattered Thoughts. What do we got? There's our cards. Cemetery Illuminator, Dormant Grove. We definitely want Cemetery Illuminator, but we don't have double blue for it, and we don't have an island in these top four. That's rough. Even when we cast the Cemetery Illuminator, they can just make it a 0/3, so we can't kill any of their flyers. But with a Dormant Grove, maybe we can get there eventually. Because they're only going to have 2 attackers. They're just drawn into another one this turn. Never mind. It's just been straight gas. Illuminator, see what's on top of our library. And another land, so we're not casting that no matter what we exile. We exile their -2/-0 spell, right? No other disturb in their grave. Dormant Grove pre-combat to make our Cemetery Illuminator bigger, so it's big enough to block Kindly Ancestor and survive. And then we just take, well, we take lethal. It doesn't matter. We've just drawn dead a little too much with our opponent drawing gas. Rough one. Round 5 now, 3 and 1. Pretty keepable hand. We have a Selhoff and Tumor turn 2 and a Sharpshooter turn 3. Then we just start holding up our instants. Playing against a black deck with a turn 1 persistent specimen. If this is an exploit deck, that specimen is terrifying. Because that really helps them trigger any of their exploit effects, like Mind Leech Ghoul for just excellent value. Mind Leech Ghoul is now basically a 2-mana 2/2 that exiles a card from our hand. It's like a better Virus Beetle, and you all know how good Virus Beetle has been in Kamigawa. So when you have a card like Persistent Specimen to make sure you can keep triggering all your exploit effects, you can get off to some brutal starts. Luckily though, we're going to have the annoyingly sturdy blockers to hopefully stop any damage from coming in for a little while. Although there's Ceremonial Knife to make it 3 power, 2 toughness, which Entomber cannot block without dying. And it won't kill the ghoul either, so pretty terrible to block there. We drop our 1/4 then, and maybe that can block the Mind Leech Ghoul. Well, combat trick it is. Combat trick to kill the Sharpshooter. Or they just want to get another blood token. With a Ceremonial Knife, it can be worth it to just keep attacking for just that reason. Welcoming Vampire is pretty horrendous for us. We need to hit our Wolf Strike, or that is just going to take over the game. Draws them an additional card every time they cast. Every time a creature with power 2 or less enters the battlefield under their control. So even if they don't cast a creature, they can just spend 3, get a Persistent Specimen back, and draw a card. So, pretty disgusting card here. If they can just draw a couple cards off of that, it'll be really hard to come back from. Send both in, because one of them gets in. We only have one blocker good enough to block either one of them. Choose to play around a combat trick here maybe and not send in Welcoming Vampire, because that is probably their plan to win the long game here. They've certainly got just a mountain of value for the long game. Mind Leech School is going to keep giving them blood tokens off the Ceremonial Knife, and the Welcoming Vampire is going to keep drawing them cards. So they should be able to just filter into whatever they need. Seems like another very bad start, so put our odds of winning at like a 30% chance or something here. But you never know how things will proceed. Maybe they won't play a 2-power creature this turn, and then I'll immediately top deck Wolf Strike, although even if I get Wolf Strike, I don't have the power to kill the Welcoming Vampire anyway. I want to counter this Diregraph Scavenger, 2/3 Death Toucher. It's annoying. I'm not going to block it well. Sure. While we have the mana up, because if we hit a land next turn, we're not going to hold any mana up. We're just going to cast Diver Scab. Get rid of that Welcoming Vampire for a turn. And we did hit a land, so I think let's do that. Make them redraw and recast the Welcoming Vampire here. Just to slow them down. Firstmold Shield Basher is the play. Well, that would give us an opportunity to top deck a counterspell here off of the Chill of the Grave cantrip. We can Chill of the Grave and use our blood token. So we can dig 2 cards deep trying to draw a counterspell. And I think I want to do that here. Chill the Grave, the Shield Basher, even to get aggressive. We hit a land, so we'll discard the land to try to hit a counterspell. Another land. They crack back for 3 here, we hit for 5. Sure, send it in. Down to 13. No counterspell though, unfortunately. Pass the turn. And then play a Persistent Specimen tapped or something here. And try to outrace. I mean, we hit for 6 and then they go to 7 life, then they hit for 7 and we go to 6 life. But then next turn we could Cradle Safety and attack if they don't have a blocker up and kill them, but they'll almost definitely have a blocker up, a Specimen Welcoming Vampire. I honestly feel, as weird as it is, as awkward as it is, I feel like just trying to race them is kind of our only hope here. Because they can win the long game with value easily with Welcoming Vampire and 4 blood tokens as well to filter to whatever they need. So I think we just attack both and then we Spore back Wolf as a blocker. Just try to push in and maybe get lucky with lethal in 2 attacks here. They're down to 6 now. Do I hold on to this land for a blood token or just play it? Only 1 Siphon Essence left in the deck. It's our only 1 blood token card. I think we'll probably just play it. If we hit a Scattered Thoughts or something, we could hit another land and a playable card next turn and need the mana to go land plus cast card. Obviously, if we hold that land per turn in hand, and then we draw into the Scattered Thoughts to pick up a land and a castable spell, we can't play both lands plus cast the spell, if you know what I'm saying. I'm really bad at explaining that, but basically, if we need 8 mana to cast something next turn, by spending 4 mana for Scattered Thoughts and then picking up a 4 mana spell off of the Scattered Thoughts, so if we Scattered Thoughts into a Dormant Grove or something, then we would need to have played that land right there so that our Scattered Thoughts can pick up Dormant Grove plus land. So we spend 4 for Scattered Thoughts, then 4 for Dormant Grove land. Obviously, we couldn't do that had we not played that land last turn, if that makes sense. That's why you want to just keep playing your lands rather than bluffing them if you have card draw in your deck. So we can Repository Scab for Chill of the Grave. Just sack itself to tap one of their creatures here and draw a card. And then we attack with a 3/5 and a 4/7. Attacking with a 3/5 and a 4/7. What do we want to tap down? Probably just the 4/2, honestly. 3/5 and a 4/7. They can double block the 3/5. With a 3/2 and a 2/3, and we only kill one of the two. But we get to kill the Welcoming Vampire if we do that. Yeah, I like Repository Scab, Chill of the Grave, tap down the Shield Basher. I think. Suppose I could get really aggressive and sacrifice the Scab to itself so that I can attack with Sporeback Wolf 2 here. Sacking a 3/3 instead of a 2/4, but the 2/4 gets to attack this turn. Yeah. Might be a little extra aggro, but I'm still going to do it. I'm going to get bold here. So you probably go Welcome Vampire and Sporeback Wolf and then chump with Mind Leech Ghoul. Take 3. They've got 1 mana up here, so they can just like filter a blood token, I guess. Yep, that looks to be the plan. They go to 3 life with 1 blocker up next turn. We have 2 creatures that'll deal lethal. I guess that would have been the biggest reason to keep the 3/3 instead of the 2/4, is that a 3/3, if they let 3 damage in, if they let any damage in, is enough to lethal them next turn, but a 2/4 isn't. So, yeah, maybe we should have just left the 3/3 behind, because then they would be in that same position where they just choose, am I gonna go down to 3 or chump block the Welcoming Vampire with the Welcoming Vampire? The only reason to have left the Sporeback Wolf on board is if we were just like certain that they were going to chump block with Welcoming Vampire, because then it does get in for that extra 2. Desperate Farmer's really bad for us. A lifelinker is a very big deal. Plus it's small enough to draw them a card off that Welcoming Vampire. And big enough to really matter if it lasts another turn, but I doubt that happens. It's almost definitely just chumping here. Maybe equip the knife to the lifelinker here, if they have nothing else to do. Gain more life on the block. Yep, that looks to be what they're doing. So how does the math work here? What do they do? Ooh, Cemetery Illuminator is disgustingly good. We can exile their Persistent Specimen and see what we have on top. Okay, so, I mean, this is definitely getting cast. Let's just do that first before we do our math. Land on top. Okay, so it doesn't matter. Oh, they're just going to scoop them up. Okay. Okay, well, did not feel like we were in a super great spot there, but super glad I started going aggressive there, just trying to close that game out with all the blood and the Welcoming Vampire ready for them. Diver Scab, putting in its work there, slowing down that Welcoming Vampire, slowing down their board state, and just being a big creature to start bashing in with alongside the Sharpshooter, trading it up. Again, Sharpshooter putting in work, getting all those counters, attacking alongside the 3/5. Yeah, really Was not a fan of how that game started, but managed to flip it in our favor there. 4-1 now. Alright, this is our first definite mulligan, a mono blue hand with all forests. Hand isn't a ton better. Actually, it is. It is dramatically better. Sporeback Wolf on 2 and then Scattered Thoughts on 4 to make up for the fact that we mulliganed. Draw a bunch of cards there. Here's our turn 2 Sporeback Wolf. We're playing against another red deck here. Red-white, Boros Aggro. Vampire Slayer is the first card. We can attack into that super easily, plus just hold up a Siphon Essence, so we shall. Since we are on the play, we're sort of by default winning the race because we're getting to get in for our damage first, so we may as well start getting in, rather than just trading our wolf off into a 2-2. Fearful Villager. I'm going to counter that and just hold up Scattered Thoughts next turn. We have 2 more counter spells in the deck to dig out with the Scattered Thoughts if we need to kill other things. I doubt their turn 4 play is going to be like super dramatically impactful, so we'll just go for the tempo here of keeping pressure on. Another 2-2 is fine. I'm going to Braid to kill that. We can Cradle it if we want. Is it worth it? It's our only creature. We probably have to. Make sure we still have it on the board here. Well, now we've drawn an Entomber, though. Which is really awkward, because I don't really want to cast Entomber, because then I don't have Scattered Thoughts or Wolf Strike up, so I guess I just hold Sporeback Wolf up and pass. So we're just blocking here. Like, I like the idea of being able to just like cast Entomber so I can attack with Wolf, but if I do that, I'm not Scattered Thoughts or Wolf Strike. Five mana from our opponent. Here comes a Belligerent Guest. And pass turn, so Scattered Thoughts it is. A Scab and another Scattered Thoughts. Yeah, they all cost 4 or less. Sure, we'll take both. Another land would be useful to go Entomber Wolf Strike. Looks like we get it anyway. So I think we will play Entomber, and now we can just Wolf Strike to kill the guest. Let's Wolf Strike while this is a 3-5, so they can't like abrade it in response to a Wolf Strike. And then I get to attack in with the Wolf this turn. Maybe I should have done that post-combat in case they went for a double block. I doubt they would have, though. But I should have given them the opportunity to do that. But yeah, now I play a 1-3, so I take 2 every turn, they take 3 every turn. So I win that race. Hungry Ridgewolf. Opponent is playing 2 mana, 2/2's the deck. Certainly a good strategy. A tried and true, time-tested, limited strategy for any format. You can just make an aggressive deck that's just a mountain of 2 mana, 2/2's. Now what? Scab with 2 mana up. Not enough to cast anything we pick up, but it could be nice in the future. We could just Scattered Thoughts instead, but then we're not putting a creature on the board. We could Scab without picking anything up if we want. I like having a 3-3 out against their board state. That is true. Probably send in the 3-5 Scab, sack Entomber, pick something up here. Although we could also just Scattered Thoughts this turn. But we deal 3 and then take 4, so maybe we aren't attacking with Wolf this turn. Actually, you know what? Let's use the blood token before we do anything else. Maybe we'll draw something better for 4 or less. That changes our plans. Okay, that does not change our plans. Alright, yeah, let's just pass. They just can't attack at all. And then we cast Scattered Thoughts. Ooh, that's rough. Definitely Illuminator. Illuminator Siphon Essence or Illuminator Dreadlight Monstrosity is the question. Let's go Illuminator Monstrosity. Let's just get big. Yep, there's the 6 mana for Monstrosity, so I think we just jam that out. Oh, we already had 6. I miscounted. Didn't even need to play that land. But now we have 7 to go Scab and Illuminator next turn. Fleeting Spirit, not a massive deal. They're 1 card away from being able to give it first strike, though. Oh no, it only requires 3 cards from grave to give it first strike. So that is a little scary if we don't hold up the 5/5 to block with. Monstrosity trades into 2 of their cards. I think I would rather just wait until Illuminator pops off with it. Because Illuminator is going to exile something from our graveyard so we can make Monstrosity unblockable every turn and just hit them 3 times with it. To the point where maybe I'm even just going to do that right now. Just put them on the 3-turn clock rather than casting this repository Scab here. Exile a card from our graveyard so that we have an exiled card. Oh, we don't have a creature in our graveyard. Never mind. Then we will exile a creature from our opponent's graveyard because we have a creature on top and just cast that. Gotta go for the Cemetery Illuminator value, so there's very little that can go wrong because now we're just drawing extra cards. Again, the initial plan was to just put them on a 3-turn clock by exiling a card from our graveyard so we can make Monstrosity unblockable each turn, but if there's something on top we can cast off Illuminator, I think we have to just go for that. So we attack with Illuminator. Probably have to full control here. Attack with Illuminator, exile an instant from our graveyard, then make it so Monstrosity can't be blocked either. We're going to need Monstrosity to be unblockable. To be super safe with it. Kill the Illuminator. We'll pick it up to recast. We still get the trigger to exile an instant from our grave. And now we can spend the 4 to make that unblockable. But now we're not recasting Illuminator, but we're still putting them on that 3-turn clock here. Play Illuminator next turn. Don't really need to play Illuminator that badly right now, because we can't cast anything off the top anyway with it. It's a 3-turn clock either way, whether or not we have Illuminator down this turn. Or a 2-turn clock from this point on. Alright, now we definitely drop Illuminator pre-combat. In case we hit a chill or something. To slow them down. It doesn't matter what we hit anymore. We've already hit creatures and instants, which is basically our entire deck. Play that. Oh, it's 5 mana to make it unblockable. I'm really good at miscounting mana today. Yeah, at this point, let's just go hog wild. Let's just go with the most annoying radio ad, if you've ever heard that. Probably literally just a Midwest thing, so you probably haven't. I am #1 at making references nobody will understand. That's not true. There's people better at that than me, but I still do it. Just grab a big draw spell, I guess. I don't really think it matters here. Things are pretty disgustingly in our favor. Just some really powerhouse cards, the Illuminator and a Dreadlight Monstrosity against a board of 2/2s, are just absolutely massive. And that will close out the game for us. Here we are in round 7, 5-1 so far. Don't think I can keep this hand because we're not really doing anything unless our opponent does stuff. We don't have anything that's impacting the board, really. Don't have any creatures of our own is the biggest problem. Plus, it's a mono-colored hand, don't have both our colors. Luckily, it's all blue cards, so we don't need the green mana yet, but it still looks like a pretty awkward hand. I'm going to mulligan this one. And I will definitely keep this. I like Entomber into Sharpshooter into Scab. So I think we get rid of the Stitched Assistant here. Ragged Recluse, turn 2 from our opponent. They're on mono black so far, and a 1/3 is going to be quite good at blocking that until they sacrifice a blood token, discard a card, and turn that into a 3/3. Still on mono black for them turn 3. We'll just drop a 1/4 now, so we still have blockers for that 2/1, and then send our 1/3 in. Turn 4 from our opponent, still mono black, but now they have a Blood Crazed Socialite, which is a really big deal. Not only is that a massive menacing attacker, but it provides them with the blood token they need to buff the Ragged Recluse if they want to do that. I believe we're just going to pass here. Oop. Definitely not that. Definitely not attacking our 1/3 into a 3/3 just to see it crumble. Doomed Dissenter, a 1/1 that turns into a 2/2 when it dies. And pass turn, it looks like, from our opponent, potentially. They do go to main phase 2. Might use the blood token, digging for their second color and flipping the Ragged Recluse, and that looks to be the case. Maybe they're just mono black. That's still mono black here, turn 5. Alright. Turn 5 for us. We can Dormant Grove to start making our field a bit bigger, or we can just play a 3/5 Diver Scab, sacrifice our Entomber, and put their Odious Switch back on top, so they'll have to do work again to make it a 3/3 again. Feels pretty spicy to me, so I'm going to Diver Scab here rather than Dormant Grove. They might even put that on bottom of their library. They might not even want to redraw it at this point in the game. Just a 2-mana 2/1. They do put it on top. So I think things are going pretty well for us. Our deck really likes to play the long game, and we've certainly made this game take long so far. Now we can Dormant Grove and just start making our field real big. Do we even start attacking now? Because what do they crack back for? They crack back for 6. We attack for 6 with a 4/6 and a 2/5. 4/6, they have 3, 4, 5, 6 power. 2/5, they have more than enough power. I suppose we're not getting a great attack in yet. Oh, I forgot. I forgot that if I make something 6 toughness, I immediately flip the Grove Strider. But that does make... Yeah, Vigilance makes it actually really simple to just jam in here. So if I remembered that, maybe that is just straight the right play. Is to just immediately flip it and jam in with Vigilance here. Just get jamming. But I usually like to play it the long way, especially in this deck, where we just keep getting counters every turn, rather than one big boost. So we have a Wolf Strike plus Cradle of Safety we can do at instant speed, so these attacks should be very safe. Alright, so we're going to kill the 2/2, which will flip the farmer, but then we can kill the farmer with a Wolf Strike. So it is no biggie. We can do that at any time, so we may as well wait up on that until we really need to kill it. Earn their end step instead of anything else. Yeah, we'll do it in the end step. We can do this plus Chill of the Grave, so we can just attack all in. And save our mana for whatever we want to do this turn, but it looks like it's all counter spells and cradles. Yeah, I don't see how they could come back from this. we have 3 counters in hand. We have counter for a removal spell or counters for a creature or planeswalker. The ridiculous draws in the end here to just keep the game locked. Yeah, and that's just lethal on board, and there's the concession from our opponent. Pretty cool deck from them if they were mono black. That would be pretty unfortunate if they were 2 color. So I'm going to hope they were mono black and they were getting to cast the cards that they drafted around there. We just had kind of the nuts hand, but if they were 2 color, that was a pretty sad time. So 6 and 1 now, 850 gems in 1 pack, no matter what. Straight in the value here. We'll see how things go as we head into round 8. Going for that final win for the 7-win run. Round 8 now. Pretty awkward hand again, because nothing that impacts the board, nothing that we're doing until turn 4. Cradle of Safety is really bad without anything on your board. Same with Wolf Strikes. I think I have to mulligan this one. But I can keep this and get rid of the 6 mana card. Just hope to hit an island here for the Cemetery Illuminator. And if we don't, we do have Selhoff Entombment to discard it and draw a card. As sad as that would be. Actually, in that case, we maybe keep Dreadlight Monstrosity just to discard to the Entomber. It's possible. That'd be pretty weird, though. Do that instead of Scattered Thoughts, because Scattered Thoughts is pretty expensive too, and it doesn't have the backup plan of being discarded to the Entomber. I could see an argument for ditching Scattered Thoughts instead of Dreadlight Monstrosity, but I'm still going to get greedy here and just discard the Monstrosity. Or just ditch the Monstrosity, I should say. So our opponent is on the play here. They got those Lightning Bolt sleeves. Red Mages represent. Really cool sleeves. See if they're playing an aggro red deck. Flavorfully. Hopefully. What do you got for us, opponent? Plains? Traveling Minister? That's not very red of you. We did immediately draw our island for the turn 3 Cemetery Illuminator, so pretty happy about that. Our opponent has started with the best white drop in the format. Best white 1-drop in the format, I should say, Traveling Minister. So we'll see how things progress from here. Hopefully it doesn't end up like the 1 round that we've lost so far against that blue-white Disturb deck, where they just played a pretty premium deck all around. That was a really nice deck from that opponent. And really nice start from this opponent for sure, Traveling Minister. They're on Boros here with a turn 2 Ancestral Anger, just cycling it to draw a card, get another point of damage in here. We've got our turn 2 Selhoff Entombment to just stop that 1-1 from hitting us for now. So now they'll just have to use it to gain a life each turn. Although there's a Griff Rider now. They can buff the Griff Rider to be able to attack into a Cemetery Illuminator and kill it. Just a little annoying, but I think we still just drop this down because this is the best we've got for now. I guess we get attack with Entomber. Because they're not going to attack with Traveling Minister no matter what. Should get in for 1 point of damage there. Unfortunately, a Circle of Confinement from our opponent will get rid of our awesome Mythic Rare, and now we will take 3 damage in the sky. And they are on white, red, and black, the 3-color deck from our opponent. Got 4 mana towards these Flourishing Hunters, not quite there yet, but Scattered Thoughts can really help us get there. So I think for now we just got to take another hit of 3 from that Flying Griff Rider. This time I will go ahead and just attack with the Entomber. I suppose we could Chill of the Grave instead of Scattered Thoughts, but Scattered Thoughts is gotta be better for right now. So we're only stopping 3 damage with Chill. I guess we're stopping 6 because we're stopping 2 attacks. There's an Audric, that's a 3 mana 3/3 with 1 blood token because they have 1 flyer. So maybe they're like white-black life gain, just splashing an Audric because he's fancy. Their board is getting pretty wide here. I would really like to stop some damage. I have changed my mind. Chill of the Grave is the plan now. Okay, unfortunately now we're going to just have to spend this whole turn on a Scattered Thoughts instead. I'm going to take 4 damage from Audric. We don't have any 1 mana cards in the deck, so no point in Scattered Thoughtsing currently. We're going to have to Scattered Thoughts for a forest too. We have to go forest, and then whatever card we want. We can't draw 2 non-land cards, or we don't have a confirmation we get to cast Flourishing Hunter. Voldaren Epicure, probably the best red 1-drop in the set. The blood token is just very valuable. So chip in for damage, get a 1/1 down, and get a blood token. Adds up to being a pretty good deal. So we're taking 4, we're down to 10. Fortunately, things might be a little too slow for us. But we'll see if we can't come back. Flourishing Hunters are a big way to try to do that. There's our second green. Alchemist Retrieval or Apprentice Sharpshooter. Cradle of Safety is going to be a bit too late. We're not going to have the mana to cast a Hunter and hold up a Cradle. Probably take Apprentice Sharpshooter so we can actually block a flyer in the future. Diver's Scab is the draw. That's pretty interesting. I think we go Flourishing Hunter this turn, and then next turn we go Flourishing Hunter, and then maybe the turn after that we'll have 8 mana to go Diver Scab Sharpshooter in the same turn. Diver Scab obviously exploiting the Selhoff Tumor. Alright, well we're stopping everything on the ground now, but we are still taking 3 a turn in the sky from Griff Rider with Traveling Minister at its side. They buff Audrix, so they're going to go for like a 2 damage spell on Flourishing Hunter. 2 for 1 there. If they're attacking with Epicure as well, there's some kind of nasty trick they're going for here. What would it be in red, white, black? Could be like a Lantern Flare to do X damage. They would have just used that as removal, I guess. Valor's Stance, they would have just killed something already. They could Adamant Will for +2/+2 indestructible. That would be the worst, would be Adamant Will. They can't use Adamant Will on 2 different cards, so we could go block there, and they only save 1. Be in red. Give the whole field +1/+0. That doesn't really matter too much. Let's just find out what it is here. It's probably going to be nasty. Oh, 2 damage to all non-vampires? That would not be bad for us either. Yeah, I was going to say that would kill these 2. But these would still die in combat, and then this would die, and that would die, so it can't be that. It's probably just +2/+2 indestructible. They're going to use it on 1 card here. Oh. Alright, 2 damage to an attacker blocker is not as bad as +2/+2 indestructible, because we'll still kill Audric in this fight. So all in all, pretty fine. Pretty solid there. Except they scry to the top and use the blood token to draw into it, so did they have just another combat trick on top to scry into and immediately draw into? They did. It's the Abrade to kill the Entomber to save the Epicure. Okay, that's not that bad. Not that bad. Dormant Grove is the draw. We have 7 mana, we can play Sharpshooter and buff it with the Grove and have a 2/5 down, and then when we play Flourishing Hunter next turn, we still have a creature out to gain the life, unless they top deck again this turn. Unless they top deck removal here. Yeah, if they don't have removal here, this is a great board state for us. Because even if they buff Griff Rider and make it a 4/2 to attack with, we block without losing a creature, so they just don't have attacks if they don't draw removal. If they draw a creature or a land or anything like that. And they just pass turn, and then we play Flourishing Hunter and really start to come back. Oh yeah, this is going to be beautiful. We play a Flourishing Hunter, then we give our whole board Vigilance. 8 mana now. Diver Scab's looking pretty bad now, though, now that we lost our 1/3 to an Abrade. We're not going to exploit with the Diver Scab. If I play Flourishing Hunter here, I have to flip Dormant Grove, because even if I target Sharpshooter, it's going to have 6 toughness, and this will automatically flip. If I play Diver Scab, it'll automatically flip as well, because I target that or that, so we might as well play Hunter first then. If it's going to flip either way. They're just going to scoop them up. They are over it. Dormant Grove into Flourishing Hunter, they are not a fan of that. They're like, that is a comeback if I've ever seen one, and I am unhappy with the situation, because now we're up to 15 life. We have a 6/6 on the ground, a 2/5 reach. That's about to be a 3/6 reach. Our whole board is going to be Vigilance, so it'll be a 3/6 reach, a 3/6 reach Vigilance, 6/6 Vigilance, and a 3/6 Vigilance. And then the 3/6 reach has Vigilance and Training, so then we start attacking with that alongside the 6/6 each turn, and it just keeps getting bigger and bigger. It was definitely looking really bad for our opponent there, and they're just over it immediately. So that is going to be 7-1 in the return to Innistrad Crimson Vow. So that was a pretty nice little blast from the past quick draft there. Pretty nice deck overall. Certainly played better than I thought it would. A very bizarre kind of tempo controlling blue-green deck here. But it panned out pretty well. I just think we had a lot of just good quality cards. The Scattered Thoughts being absolutely phenomenal card draw. Flourishing Hunters, as I said, such a big way to get back in the game, as you saw in that last game there. That's why I was so happy to see them. Well, not so happy, but so... I was so ready to just flop into green when I saw one of these with only like 5 cards left in the pack. I was like, well... I guess we've got a backup plan of flopping into green in the last pack, and then we kind of did, because there were Flourishing Hunters just running around everywhere. And yeah, overall, really nice, just slow tempo-y deck that just makes a big late-game comeback with big 6-drops and Diver Scabs and Dormant Groves, just big high-impact late-game cards with the card draw to draw into them. So, pretty interesting deck there, pretty fine deck, 7-1. No like bomb rares or anything, but just a solid deck can still get you there in Crimson Vow. That'll be 950 gems and 2 packs, but that is going to end today's video. As always, if you enjoy these videos and you'd like to see more, just stick around on the channel. I will be doing these videos as close to daily as I can, as always. You can also check out the Twitch channel in the link in the description below if you'd like to catch me live on occasion. But other than that, as always, thank you very much for watching, and I will see you again soon for some more Magic Arena.